In order to predict Bethesda's future and to answer the question whether Bethesda is doomed or not, we need to look at the last Bethesda game to see the trends of Bethesda. So we first need to talk about Starfield, and then I'll answer the question whether Bethesda is doomed. Starfield was a failure. Not because it was a bad game actually, no, but because it didn't live up to the hype that Bethesda tried to impose. It was a mediocre game. I mean, it didn't even got nominated for the Game of the Year. Even Fallout 4 was nominated. Bethesda wasted 8 years and a ton of resources to make a mediocre game, a game that nobody asked for, instead of developing Test 6. And they are making fans wait like 16 years for the next The Elder Scrolls game. I'm sure that Bethesda realizes its failure with Starfield. They surely see how Larian and Baldur's Gate 3 made the thing that guys from Bethesda were supposed to do, and succeeded. Larian made a plot-based fantasy RPG, and everyone loved it. Not only that, but they made it with a turn-based combat system, and still, everyone loved it. This shows how desperate people are for a good fantasy RPG, or a good plot-based RPG in general, that people don't even mind to give a chance to a less traditional combat system. I mean, no offense, I love Baldur's Gate 3, but you need to understand that Baldur's Gate 3 is a game that it is hard to love, especially at the beginning of the game. There is a lot to figure out, what does what, all the terms, a lot of spells, a lot of abilities. It gets better with time, but the game is pretty hard on newbies like me, and there are a lot of people like me who never played a turn-based RPG before. But let's get back to the point. To understand Bethesda's failure, we must talk about what it is that Bethesda lacked with Starfield, but Larian and Baldur's Gate 3 had. In my opinion, the most important and right opinion in this galaxy, the thing that Bethesda lacked but Larian had, is strong core world building. The base that the game is standing on. Let me explain. Baldur's Gate 3 stands on the shoulders of Dungeons & Dragons games. Baldur's Gate inherited a lot from D&D, including lore, world building, and almost the entirety of combat. Unlike Bethesda with Starfield, Larian didn't create the game from the scratch. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to take away Larian's merits, I'm just stating the fact. Starfield is the first, and probably, apparently, the last game in a series. Bethesda didn't do the best job to make it a cool game universe, like Test Universe for example. The core world building of Starfield is bad. I mean, with the same Starfield plot, you can easily make a fantasy game. If you are making a space setting sci-fi game, then make sure that it actually uses the space sci-fi elements in the plot. In Starfield, setting is just the decoration, but not the base of the plot. The main hero is collecting artifacts, and the intruders from another world are trying to collect them as well, to build a structure out of them that can give you superpowers, and give you the ability to travel forward to another world, to collect the artifacts once again, and to become even stronger. Where did you hear in this sentence the necessity in sci-fi setting? The whole plot can be easily fit into one planet with magic. No guns, no starships, no jetpacks required to make this plot. Not only that, but pretty much the entire lore is replaceable and can fit on one planet. It is a mark of a bad core world building if the plot doesn't require the setting. Now for the contrast, we can look at Mass Effect game universe. Well, first of all, there are aliens in Mass Effect game universe. It is like 90% of the point to even have space sci-fi world setting. I was extremely happy when I first saw Starborns in Starfield, because I thought they were aliens. And I was extremely disappointed when I found out that they are not aliens. But let's get back to the point. In Mass Effect game universe, I got the most pleasure when interacting with aliens. You get to know them, their behavior, their culture, how they interact with each other, what is their opinion on humans, etc. The Mass Effect core world building plot is that Reapers, who are aliens, want to harvest galaxy sapient species each 50,000 years, and they're letting non-sapient species to evolve. The species that are being harvested are trying to fight Reapers and survive. When they fail, they are trying to pass on the knowledge about the danger of the Reapers, and the knowledge how to defeat Reapers, to the next cycle and to the next species. You can try to fit this core setting in fantasy, but you'll have to alter a lot of things to an extent where it is almost impossible to see the similarities for a player. Do you see the difference now? Mass Effect is a game about people in space. Starfield is a game about people who are existing in space decorations. Now I will talk about what Bethesda did right with Starfield, and then we will talk about Bethesda's future. I have to be honest, Starfield is a perfect base for an online game that can make hundreds of millions. Now that I want Bethesda to waste time and resources to make an online game, but they could give it to some other studio like they did with Tesla. Anyway, as I said, the game is a perfect setup for an online game. Hundreds of desert planets with the ability to build bases on them to mine resources. An infinite amount of universes where players are competing with each other to get to the artifacts. And when the player gets to them, they go to another universe to collect them again. And there could potentially be a war between Freestar Collective and UC colonies, where you could join one of the factions. And when this is over, you can start from the beginning, but with more powers. The amount of stuff that the player can do in online Starfield is endless. Everything is possible in the multiverse. There is no canon and not canon. Damn, there is probably a universe where people use ponies that shoot rainbows instead of guns, and it won't crush the lore of the universe. Now, let's leave the potential possibilities of a non-existent game, and we will talk about the real Starfield. Starfield that we have. But Bethesda, if you hear me, and you like my idea about Starfield O, please send me money. Anyway, what I like about the real Starfield. The story of the game is far more mature than the one of Skyrim, for example, and I like it. I hope that Bethesda will hold the momentum and will make an adult plot for Test 6. Now, I'm not saying that the plot was really good, I'm saying that it was mature. I really like the Ryujin questline, for example. In terms of the story, of course, not the gameplay. However, this maturity may be due to the more mature setting of the game, so it is not guaranteed that the plot in Test 6 will be more mature than in Skyrim. But anyway, the plot is not the reason why people love Test series. It's the adventure, curiosities, the amount of content that the gamer encounters, and the amount of mysteries that the gamer explores. So even if Bethesda will choose to go back a little on the narrative, it won't hurt much. The second thing that I liked was Starfield economy, how well balanced it is compared to Skyrim. It isn't just Skyrim though. Majority of game studios can't balance the economy of their games, so the player is either super rich and has nothing to buy, or the player is super poor and can't afford anything. Or sometimes the developers can't manage the loot economy, so the player isn't interested to buy stuff because the player can get a better loot from a cave. Starfield, on the other hand, has one of the best economy. I was selling a lot and buying a lot. In Skyrim, or even in my favorite Oblivion, you usually sell and rarely buy. I hope that in Test 6, Bethesda will be able to make a good economy system, as they did in Starfield. Now, I can also say that I like Starfield's combat, how different guns feel different, but it can't be applied to the Elder Scrolls 6, so won't talk about it, because it doesn't really matter. So, we finally shall talk about Bethesda's future. Is it bright, or are we at the downfall of once legendary game studio? It isn't the popular opinion nowadays, but in my opinion, the most important and right opinion in this galaxy. I think that Bethesda will release a really good Test 6 game. And why do you think so, you may ask? Going back to the beginning of the video, Bethesda will finally make a game on the stable structure of the game universe, that is, the Elder Scrolls. Starfield was a failure, but it had to be made from scratch. It isn't the case with test series. The game formula is already there. They know it, people love it. You really have to be proficient in messing up to mess it up. Talking about game formula, I've made a video about Rockstar game formula. You can check it out after this video. And I am planning to make a similar video about Bethesda's formula, so subscribe for that. Yes, there are game studios that can build the game from the scratch and succeed. Like for example, Horizon Zero Dawn. First game, banger. But it wasn't the ideal game. It has some bad sides as well. There were important things on the stage of ideas that were really good. And the studio did their job well to make those ideas work. Starfield, on the other hand, was bad on the idea level. So bad that I think it is beyond saving. Or is it? The next video that I am going to make will be on how to fix Starfield. This video that you are watching is a remake of my old video. And the reason why I decided to make this remake is the Luke's video about how to fix Starfield. I have a different opinion on that matters, but I need this video because I speak a lot about Starfield here. Now, in my opinion, again, the most important and right opinion in this galaxy, Bethesda Studio did its job and performed the ideas that Todd Howard had. The idea itself is the problem, that it fits only for an online game. So are we saved? Will Test 6 be guaranteed a good game? Not so fast, cowboy. We are secured on the idea level, but there's one more thing left: performance. Which is, will the studio be able to make a good job on the level of the technical condition of the game? Which I think it is not the biggest problem. I think that we will at least get a decent technical condition. But there's still the issue of gameplay. First and foremost, the combat. When talking about Test 6, people often don't think about it, but it is a big issue. The biggest. Well, in majority of game series, the sequels inherit the combat structure from its predecessors. Well, there's the issue. The last test game was released 12 years ago, and I don't think that we will get the next Scrolls game faster than in 4 years, which means that we're 16 years behind. 16 years is a lot of time, and the progress doesn't wait for you, it goes forward. Bethesda will have to work really hard on the combat for Test 6, and I can't say that Skyrim combat was brilliant for its time. It was decent. So if Test 6 will inherit combat from Skyrim, I fear that we might get a bad combat. There's a lot of ways how to make a, let's say, sword-based combat system. I have already made 5 videos on the idea of the Elder Scrolls 6. There I talk about combat that we need, and other stuff that will make Test 6 perfect. This series is so good that even Virgil likes it. Virgil, do you like it? See, told you. And that's it. If you like this video, share this video with your friends and with your dog, and let them wonder if you consider them as a friend or as a dog. That's gonna be funny. Now, eat your vegetables and don't be naughty. See you later.